What if I told you that your very pursuit of happiness is the very thing making you miserable? We've all been sold a story. We're told that happiness is something we can find, something we can achieve, if we just check the right boxes. We chase it in our careers, in our relationships, in our next vacation. We are all running a race where the finish line keeps moving. We operate under a powerful, almost unconscious, assumption that happiness is a destination. We tell ourselves, I'll finally be happy when I get that promotion, when I find the perfect partner, when I lose those last 20 pounds. This is the arrival fallacy, and it's a trap. The moment you achieve one of these things, there's a brief spark of celebration, but it quickly fades, and your mind immediately latches onto the next thing. The new job brings new stresses. The relationship requires constant work, and you realize you're still the same person with the same internal struggles, just in a slightly different setting. You were so focused on the horizon that you never learned how to be present where you are. The goal wasn't a finish line, it was just another mile marker. And now you're already tired from the run, looking toward the next one, wondering why you still feel so empty. Compounding this is the modern pressure to not only be happy, but to perform happiness as a constant, permanent state. Social media feeds are curated highlight reels, and we're bombarded with messages to just think positive and vibe high. This creates a tyranny of positivity, where feeling anything other than happy is seen as a personal failure. So we force smiles when we're crumbling inside, we feel guilty for our bad days, and we pretend that our lives are as seamless and beautiful as the squares on our Instagram feeds. But this is exhausting. It's a psychological civil war where you're constantly fighting your own authentic human emotions. The truth is, human beings are not designed for perpetual bliss. We are complex creatures who experience a full spectrum of emotions: sadness, anger, fear, joy, and each one has its purpose. By trying to amputate the so-called negative emotions, we don't become happier. We become numb, disconnected, and ironically, more anxious about the inevitable moments when we can't keep up the act anymore. And where do we look for this fleeting feeling of happiness? We outsource it. We have been conditioned to believe that our self-worth and joy are external commodities to be earned and consumed. We tie our happiness to the number of likes on a post, the compliment from a colleague, or the thrill of a new purchase. We become addicts, chasing the next hit of validation. But the high from external approval is incredibly short-lived. That notification dopamine spike crashes almost as quickly as it arrives, leaving you checking your phone again, feeling a little more vacant. That new car feels amazing for a week, and then it just becomes your car. The promotion feels validating for a month, and then it just becomes your job with its own set of problems. This cycle creates a dependency, making you a prisoner to the opinions of others and the fleeting satisfaction of material things. You hand over the keys to your inner peace to a world that is completely unpredictable and unconcerned with your well-being, and you wonder why you feel so powerless and unstable. Truth number 1. Happiness is a byproduct, not a goal. This brings us to the first, and perhaps most fundamental, truth we have to accept. Happiness is not a goal to be achieved, but a byproduct to be experienced. Think about it like trying to fall asleep. If you lie in bed staring at the clock, demanding that your body shut down, you'll be wide awake with frustration until sunrise. Sleep doesn't come through force of will. It arrives on its own when you stop chasing it, when you relax into the comfort of your bed and let go. Happiness operates in much the same way. The relentless pursuit of it, the constant scanning of your internal horizon to see if you've arrived at happy, is what ensures you never will. It's a feeling that emerges quietly in the background when you are fully immersed in something else, when you are lost in the flow of mastering a difficult skill, when you are deeply connected to a person you care for, or when you are contributing to a cause that is bigger than your own self-interest. It's the warmth you feel not because you found a pot of gold, but because you were so engaged in the meaningful work of building something. So the most powerful shift you can make is to stop asking, "Am I happy yet?" and start asking, "Is my life meaningful? Am I engaged? Am I growing?" Build a life of purpose and connection, and you will find that happiness has been there all along, not as the prize at the end, but as the quiet companion on the journey. Truth number 2, happiness requires suffering. And to build that meaningful life, you must make peace with the second, more difficult truth, that happiness requires suffering. We live in a culture that is deeply afraid of pain. We are taught to avoid it, suppress it, or numb it away at all costs. But in our attempt to wall off the difficult parts of the human experience, the heartbreak, the failure, the anxiety, the sadness, we build a prison for ourselves. You cannot selectively numb emotion. When you build a wall to keep out the sadness, you also wall out joy. When you refuse to feel the sting of failure, you also dampen the thrill of achievement. The depth of your capacity for joy is directly proportional to your willingness to experience sorrow. The contrast is what gives life its richness and its color. A life of only positive emotions would be like a song with only one note, flat, monotonous, and ultimately meaningless. It is the struggle that makes the rest meaningful. So the path to a more authentic and resilient joy is not to eliminate the dark times, but to move through them with courage. Allow yourself to feel the full weight of your grief without running from it. Sit with your anxiety without judging it. By making space for these difficult emotions, you aren't giving in to despair. You are, paradoxically, expanding your capacity to feel the full spectrum of life, including the profound and authentic happiness that comes from knowing you can handle whatever life brings. Truth number 3, you are responsible for your own happiness. This leads to the third truth, which is perhaps the most difficult pill to swallow. You, and only you, are responsible for your own happiness. This is a terrifying thought, because it's so much easier to play the blame game. It's comforting to point to your difficult childhood, your overbearing boss, your financial struggles, or your unsupportive partner and say, "That is why I am not happy." It places the cause of your suffering, and more importantly, the solution, entirely outside of yourself. But this mindset is a cage. It makes you a passive victim of your circumstances, endlessly waiting for the world to change before you can permit yourself to feel okay. The liberating, albeit initially frightening, reality is that no one is coming to save you. No external force, not a partner, not a lottery ticket, not a guru, can hand you a lasting sense of inner peace. That is your job and yours alone. This isn't about blaming yourself for your struggles, but about empowering yourself with radical ownership. It means taking responsibility for your mindset each morning, for the choices you make about how you spend your time and energy, and for the stories you tell yourself about your life. The moment you stop waiting for the bus to take you to happiness and decide to start walking under your own power is the moment you truly begin your journey. Truth number 4, happiness is often boring. To a final truth that is deeply anticlimactic, real happiness is often boring. We are addicted to the drama of peak experiences, the breathtaking vacations, the wild nights out, the big victories. We mistake these intense spikes of excitement for happiness, but they are like fireworks, brilliant, loud, and fleeting, leaving behind only silence and smoke. Sustainable happiness, the kind that forms a sturdy foundation for your life, is not found in the spectacular, but in the steadfast. It is the quiet, cumulative effect of 1,000 seemingly boring choices. It is the feeling of being rested after a full night's sleep. It is the steady focus you find in doing good work. It is the calm contentment of a nourishing meal and the clarity that comes from a daily walk. There is no adrenaline rush in these things. They don't make for compelling social media posts, but they are the bedrock. They are the fundamentals that, when mastered, create a life of low-grade, consistent fulfillment that no single external event can give or take away. The real work, then, is to fall in love with the mundane, to find satisfaction in the rhythm of your routines, to see the profound dignity in showing up consistently for your life, even when it's not exciting. Because it is in these quiet, boring moments that a resilient and genuine happiness is quietly built, day by ordinary day. So if the old model is broken, what do? How do we actually build this sustainable, authentic form of happiness? The answer lies not in a single magic bullet, but in a fundamental reorientation of our daily lives. It begins with a shift from being a passive consumer to an active creator. Every hour we spend mindlessly scrolling through content, we are outsourcing our sense of agency and engagement. We are letting others shape our reality. But when you create, whether it's a piece of art, a line of code, a loaf of bread, or a business plan, you are engaging in a profound dialogue with the world. You enter a state of flow, where time falls away and your sense of self recedes. In that state, you are not thinking about happiness at all. You are simply immersed in the act of bringing something new into existence. And from that immersion, a deep and lasting satisfaction naturally emerges. It's the difference between watching someone else's story and finally starting to write your own. This internal shift is amplified by the quality of our connections. In a world obsessed with networking and follower counts, we have forgotten the power of depth. Cultivating happiness requires that we prioritize a handful of deep, vulnerable relationships over 1,000 superficial ones. It's about having people with whom you can share your unedited self, your fears, your failures, your quiet joys, without the need for a filter or a performance. This kind of vulnerability is terrifying, but it is the very currency of true connection. It is in these relationships that we are seen, heard, and understood, providing a buffer against life's hardships and amplifying its pleasures in a way that likes and comments never can. The third pillar is to actively practice gratitude for the ordinary. We are hardwired to notice what's missing, what's wrong, what's next. Gratitude is the conscious rebellion against this evolutionary default. This isn't about naive positivity. It's a psychological superpower that recalibrates your perception. When you make a daily practice of acknowledging the simple gifts you already possess, the warmth of the sun, the comfort of a bed, the reliability of a working heart, you are not just listing nice things. You are actively dismantling the arrival fallacy and anchoring your sense of well-being in the present reality. You realize that many of the things you once hoped would make you happy in the future are things you already have right now. This practice shrinks the endless wanting and expands your appreciation for the life you are already living. Finally, we must learn to embrace voluntary discomfort. This sounds counterintuitive, but it is one of the most powerful tools for building a resilient joy. When you deliberately step outside your comfort zone, by taking a cold shower, pushing through a hard workout, or initiating a difficult but necessary conversation, you are sending a powerful message to your subconscious. I am capable. I can handle difficulty. This builds an inner fortitude that makes the ordinary challenges of daily life feel lighter by comparison. The comfort of your warm home feels more profound after a brisk walk in the cold. The peace of a resolved conflict is deeper because you had the courage to face it. By regularly choosing small, manageable doses of hardship, you inoculate yourself against the fear and fragility that so often undermine our happiness, and you discover a profound sense of strength that becomes a permanent source of confidence and calm. So where does this leave us? It leaves us with a choice. We can continue to chase the phantom of happiness as it's been sold to us, a destination to arrive at, a constant state to achieve, a prize to be won from the outside world. Or we can accept the more challenging, yet infinitely more solid and real truth. Happiness isn't a shiny object to be captured. It's the quiet, resilient byproduct of a life well lived, a life built on purpose, radical responsibility, and the courage to embrace both struggle and stillness. It's the feeling that emerges in the spaces between striving, in the depth of real connection, and in the dignity of a life built on your own terms. The ultimate truth, the one that changes everything once you truly internalize it, is that you don't find happiness. You build it, brick by brick, with your daily choices, your embraced discomfort, your nurtured relationships, and your gratitude for the ordinary. And the moment you stop looking for it elsewhere, in a person, a possession, or a future achievement, is the very moment the building process can truly begin. You already have everything you need to start. Now, I want to hear from you. This is a conversation. What was the one uncomfortable truth that hit home for you today? Was it the idea that happiness requires suffering, or that it's your own responsibility? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. If this conversation resonated with you, and you're ready for more truths that cut through the noise and actually help you grow, then hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. And speaking of what's next, we're going to apply this same no-nonsense approach to one of the biggest mental hurdles we face. In the next video, we're talking about the one mindset shift that eliminates anxiety, not by pretending it doesn't exist, but by fundamentally changing your relationship with it. I'll see you there.